Hi, I'm Jacqueline Gruber, and this is Chuck Allison. Here at LRC Aviation Advisors, we are proud to help our clients understand and utilize their unique United Airlines benefits. In addition to educating pilots and families on your benefits, we create personalized financial plans and strategies to help our clients achieve their financial goals. Although everyone has their own unique set of circumstances, one thing we find most of our clients have in common is their desire to one day retire or at least no longer need to work for an income. This video series will mainly focus on 1, some of the most effective strategies to optimize your savings in the years leading up to retirement, and 2, strategies to help you most efficiently spend your hard-saved dollars during your retirement years. Chuck is going to start by taking you through part 1 of our video series, which outlines what we believe to be some of the most effective saving strategies and techniques using your United PRAP 401K.
Let's start by looking at some of the important features of your United Airlines PRAP 401K, including IRS contribution limits and the spillage contributions into your AHRA RHA. A pilot can contribute $22,500 on a pre-tax basis or tax-deductible basis each year. For those pilots over the age of 50 years old, there is a catch-up provision which allows for an additional $7,500 pre-tax worth of contributions each year for a total of $30,000 worth of annual pre-tax contributions. These parameters are the exact same for direct Roth contributions. Therefore, a pilot the age of 50 can only put a total of $30,000 of his or her money into the PRAP 401K, whether it is pre-tax, Roth, or a mixture of the two. A pilot can elect to continue to make voluntary post-tax contributions, which we will cover in more detail later in this video. In all cases, United Airlines will make pre-tax contributions equal to 16% of all income up to $330,000 per year. All contributions made by the pilot, plus those made by United, will cease when the overall contribution limit of $73,500 is reached this year. When the income limit of $330,000 or the overall contribution limit of $73,500 is reached, whichever happens first, the United 16% contribution is diverted into the AHRA, or what we call spillage. The AHRA is invested in a money market and is accessible to the pilot during their active employment for qualified medical expenses. Funds will sweep twice per year from the AHRA to the Retiree Health Account, or RHA. The first happens in January for amounts in excess of $15,000. The second in June for amounts in excess of $5,000. At retirement, the entire balance of the AHRA is swept into the RHA. The funds in the RHA are available at retirement for qualified medical expenses for pilot spouses, and pilot dependents. When both the pilot and pilot spouse have passed away, the pilot's remaining RHA balance goes to the shared pool for use by other pilot retirees. This is what we call the use it or lose it feature for your RHA. Typically, healthcare is one of your largest expenses in retirement. It is estimated that a married couple age 65 entering retirement today will spend upwards of $300,000 on healthcare-related expenses. Your RHA is a fantastic way to save for some of these expenses, as money goes in pre-tax, grows tax-deferred, and can be used tax-free for qualified medical expenses. Today we're going to talk about various 401k funding strategies and the impact it has on the spillage into your AHRA RHA. Like any good strategy, let's start with the end in mind. So let's take a look at a typical situation that we find a pilot in the years nearing retirement. The 2022 Fidelity study found that a married couple, both age 65, will spend approximately $315,000 on qualified medical expenses throughout their retirement. Let's assume this is the target balance that a pilot wishes to have in his or her RHA by the time the pilot reaches retirement. If the pilot currently has a balance of $175,000, this means that a funding strategy should be designed to create the required spillage to meet the shortfall of $140,000 to bring the total to the target of $315,000. Assuming the pilot has 5 years left to go before retirement and does not spend down the AHRA along the way, this requires an average of $28,000 of spillage per year into the pilot's AHRA RHA account. We are going to look at 3 different funding scenarios for a pilot over age 50, assuming the pilot is making $400,000 in annual salary. Let's take a look at the first scenario. We typically find when we meet a pilot over age 50, nearing retirement, that his or her funding strategy consists of making the pre-tax maximum of $30,000 in contributions before the end of the calendar year and then stopping. Assuming the pilot is making $400,000 in annual income, United Airlines' 16% contribution will total $64,000. However, due to the overall funding limit of $73,500, only the first $43,500 worth of United's contributions will fit into the pilot's PRAP 401K. The remaining $20,500 will spill into the AHRA RHA. Many pilots, when we meet, feel like they're significantly behind their healthcare savings goals, which means we need to create a strategy that will significantly increase the amount of spillage that ultimately goes into the AHRA RHA. This, in many cases, requires a significant increase in your contributions into your 401k, in some cases up to 100%, both pre-tax and post-tax. This will allow the most spillage possible in the final years of your employment and help you catch up to your RHA savings goals. Let's take a look at that in more detail. Here we are looking at the same pilot, over age 50, making $400,000 in annual income, but this time there is an element of speed in which the pilot needs to make contributions into the PRAP 401k. This is because United is contributing 16% of all income up to $330,000. So in order to get as much of his or her own money into the PRAP, the pilot must make contributions quickly to essentially race the United 16% to the overall contribution limit of $73,500. In order to do this, the pilot makes an election to contribute 100% of his or her income on a pre-tax basis up to the limit of $30,000 per year. The pilot also makes an election for their contributions to continue beyond this on what's called a voluntary post-tax basis. Depending on the amount and timing of income which the pilot makes in the first few months of the year, the pilot may get up to $20,000 or more worth of voluntary post-tax contributions into the PRAP 401k. In this case, we are showing a total of $20,000 worth of voluntary post-tax contributions, making it into the PRAP before the $73,500 limit is reached, which forces $20,000 of additional spillage into the AHRA RHA. In part 2 of our video series, we will explain in more detail how these voluntary post-tax contributions may be converted into Roth through a strategy we call a mega backdoor. Now let's take a look at a different situation. This is when a pilot feels like they're either already overfunded or will be certainly overfunded by the time they retire in their RHA. This is oftentimes the case when a pilot is covered by TRICARE for life, is a single pilot, or already has ample savings in the RHA due to many income earning years over the IRS income limit. In this next strategy, we're going to talk about ways to minimize the amount of spillage that's created into the AHRA RHA. Keep in mind, there is no one size fits all. We highly encourage you to reach out to one of our advisors so we can build a custom plan that best fits your needs. Here, we are looking at the same pilot, over age 50, making $400,000 in annual income. Unlike the previous case where the pilot is trying to race United to the $73,500 overall limit in order to create as much spillage as possible, this time we are trying to do the opposite. We are trying to minimize the amount of spillage into the AHRA RHA. In this strategy, the pilot will allow as much of United's 16% to go into the PRAP as possible. As mentioned earlier, the 2023 IRS limit allows United Airlines to contribute 16% of pilot income up to $330,000 per year. This is equal to $52,800. Even if the pilot contributes $0 into his or her PRAP, United Airlines will only be able to contribute $52,800 into the PRAP before spillage takes place. If the pilot allows for the entire $52,800 to go into the PRAP, there is still $20,700 remaining in the overall contribution limit of $73,500. This means if the pilot wants to make the largest pre-tax contribution as possible without creating any additional spillage that will already take place no matter what, he or she should make $20,700 worth of pre-tax contributions and no more. This concludes part 1 of our 3-part video series. In part 2 of our video series, Jacqueline will go into more detail on some of the strategies discussed here in part 1, and she'll expand on some of the strategies that are created, such as the mega backdoor and regular backdoor Roth contributions. Keep in mind, everybody's set of circumstances are unique, so we encourage you to reach out to our team so we can help you build a personalized plan for you.